Live across North Texas and beyond, this is the Jenna Ryan Show.
Ain't that America? You and me. Ain't that America? Little pink houses for you.
Jenna Ryan is a world-renowned speaker and thought leader, ranked in the 87th most influential person online by Fast Company magazine. Jenna Ryan has spoken to thousands around the world and is now speaking to you. So with all things real estate and beyond, here is Jenna Ryan.
I don't hear it. Turn yours off. I got it. Hello, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Jenna Ryan Show. So glad you're here today. It's a beautiful Sunday here in Dallas, Fort Worth, and I am here with my fabulous guest, Lee Warren, with Prospect Inspections.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. We are glad that you're here. I want to say hello, a special hello to all my clients that are listening today, my real estate clients. I'm a real estate agent, of course, and I sell real estate, and I want to say hi. I want to say hi to Katie and Brandon and all my fabulous clients that are listening today, as well as my listeners. Thank you for listening here on the radio, Talk Radio 1190. And we're glad to have you here. And to all the Facebook people that are watching on Facebook, welcome on Facebook Live at jenna.ryan1. We're just kind of putting together that technology because it's awesome and it's a live show. And we get a lot of good questions on there. Also, the phone lines are open at 214-787-1190. We would love to hear from you. We would love to get your questions. Today, you're going to get so much great information today about inspections. This is going to be a wonderful, wonderful show because we're going to answer the questions that I get asked all the time and that Lee gets asked all the time. But first, I always like to start out my show with a little bit of news to just kind of get us acclimated with what is going on in the world today. And right now, we are sitting on a political plethora of everything. It's cray-cray out there. There's so many things happening politically that watching the news is like watching a soap opera. It's like, holy but duty, and these things are changing. We're in a land of change. And things are going from one extreme to another extreme, and it's just like, holy Madudi. That's my best word for that, for what all's going on. You know what I'm talking about?
I haven't heard Holy Madudi before.
I need to think of some better words,
yeah.
Okay? I'm going to have to work on that. I'm going to work on some better words to say because it's just awe and wow, I can't believe this is happening. So here we are in Trump's first week, and he's done a zillion things. We all know he signed a bunch of executive orders and done all of these things that he promised in the campaign. Well, generally speaking, in the presidency, it takes 4 years for people to get stuff done. This dude on day one was like doing everything, all these things. Some people would think that it's crazy, that it's oh gosh, she's ruining our country. And then other people are happy. We've got half the people happy, half the people freaking out. You never know who you're talking to, so you kind of don't want to talk about it. But I figured I would go ahead and bring it up just because that's what we're all going through this week. And it's tumultuous and it's nerve-wracking and it brings up a lot of feelings of how do I feel about this? And oh my gosh, I feel for people. We have, in the first week, he's just done a million things. We also had the crazy protests. I say crazy because it was just like, everybody was protesting the day after the inauguration about everything. And, if you had a reason to protest, they were out protesting, and that was interesting. So interesting to watch, as well as, the hats.
Yeah, the hats were a little much.
The hats, the pussy hats. I'm going to go ahead and say it, the pussy hats. And those were interesting and making a big statement there and really interesting. And then we had the pro-life protest, which is also interesting. That makes you really think about what do you value, what is important to you. And on some of these issues, heck, I can see both sides. I can see both sides of that story. And so, being moderate in this extreme seesaw of a society right now is very interesting. And then we also had the protests last night of the detainees at the airports totally having compassion and understanding what people are going through, and then also understanding that our country needs borders. It's just a really difficult time for everyone, and but also it's interesting to watch as our country changes. And being a part of history is a wonderful time to be alive. And so, welcome to the show. Today, we are talking about inspections. And I'm just going to go ahead and get us started. Before I introduce you formally, because I'm going to give you a really good introduction, okay? So you just hang on.
Fair enough.
Okay. But first, I want to just explain to my clients for future reference when I give you this video or this recording of this show, is that a lot of my clients are like, what about the inspection process? How does the inspection process work? And I'll tell you what, every single time you sell a house, there's a little checkbox on the contract, and it says that the person is buying the home as is. Well, that's really not how it works here in Texas, because there was a lot of lawsuits and a lot of problems getting the contracts going to closing. So what they've done is they've created the option to have an option period. So the buyer, this is a huge investment to buy a home. That's like people's most largest investment that they buy. So they're buying a home, and so they need time to really do their due diligence about the property and make sure that it is what it seems to be, and make sure that it's safe for them, and make sure that they're not going to have to spend a bunch of money once they move in, and make sure there's not a lot of hidden problems. So what they do is they purchase the option to take the home off the market for a certain number of days. There's no hard, fast rule on this, but generally you do have norms. There's a lot of norms. The norms are 5, 7, or 10 days, and it just depends on what you can get. Of course, the buyer wants as many days as possible, but the buyer also has to be cognizant that they're competing in a lot of cases against other buyers depending on the price point and what the home is like. So the buyer may need to, go in at 7 days. So generally, I'd just say 7 days, $150 you pay to take the house off the market and to get the right to purchase the home. You pay $150 and you get the right to purchase the home. And then you go under option, okay? The minute you go under option, you must contact a home inspector, okay? And what I do as an agent, and what I've been trained to do, and what most agents do, and we have to do, is we give a list of inspectors so that there's no collusion, there's no, you decide who you want to inspect your home. You could go to Angie's List and find an inspector. You could know somebody who's an inspector. But generally speaking, if your agent sells homes and they give you a list, you probably, can trust those people. So you go through the list and you pick the inspector that you want to use. You may call all of them and find out how they answer their phone, whether they answer their phone, and how they sound, and also if they're available, because it's hard to get an inspector because they're so busy, and you've got 7 days. So you need to get that inspector out within a couple of days because there may be some negotiations that you need to do. Okay, now I'm going to introduce, oh darn, I'm talking a lot. Oh well, I had to get that information out. It had to happen. So I'm going to introduce Lee Warren. Lee Warren with Prospect Inspections is How many, you tell me about yourself.
My company is Prospect Inspectors. I've been doing home inspections. I've been licensed to do home inspections for 12 years now. Serve all over the entire Metroplex. My little car is a 2012. I have over 200,000 miles on it, so I pretty much go everywhere.
That's great to know.
Yep. So I started off by actually doing buying, rehabbing, and flipping. So I purchased houses. I've redone roofs, foundations, electrical, plumbing, all that fun stuff myself.
Right.
So I've done all that myself before I actually became a licensed home inspector, and I've been doing this ever since.
That is fabulous. Now, don't you, you're all connected with all this. That's the one thing I remember, that whenever I met you, you said, oh, you're involved in all these.
I am pretty involved. I like to be involved in my industry, not only to educate myself, but to make my industry better.
Right.
I sit on the board of directors for the Collin County Association of Realtors.
Wow.
As well as 6 different committees for them. I'm a member of the North Texas chapter of the North Texas Association of Real Estate Inspectors. I sit on the Inspector Advisory Committee for the Texas Real Estate Commission down in Austin.
Dang.
I'm the vice chair for that committee. I'm the chair of the Standards of Practice Subcommittee.
See?
Fortrec Enforcement Subcommittee, and I sit on the Professional Standards Committee for Texas Association of Realtors as well.
Oh my goodness, I'm intimidated. I'm totally intimidated. That's a lot of associations, and that means that you're very knowledgeable and trusted in the marketplace. And so if this guy does a home inspection, I don't think he's going to miss anything in the house. I think he's probably going to come up with everything that's in the house, and that's important. You want an inspector that is going to be thorough, that's going to really let you know what's wrong with the home, but also not to freak you out. That's kind of the delicateness that an inspector has to have. Our phone lines are open at 214-787-1190. If you have a question for Lee, call in, ask questions on Facebook here. We are here to answer your questions about home inspections. I'll talk to you after the break.
Are you ready to take advantage of this hot Dallas real estate market? If so, go to my website at imaysell.com. Fill out the form and receive valuable information about selling your home. The Dallas real estate market is hotter than ever. We're having the biggest real estate boom in 10 years. Maybe it's time for you to sell your home. If so, visit imaysell.com. That's imaysell.com. Fill out the form and receive valuable information about selling your home in the Dallas, Denton, and Collin counties.
What's that noise?
That's the home security guy. He's installing our alarms.
You're gonna be safe as clams when I'm done drilling this sucker in.
Yeah, maybe we should have gone with Simply Safe.
The neighbors love theirs. They set it up in half an hour. No drilling, no wires, no installation fee. And 24/7 professional monitoring is only $15 a month with no long-term contracts.
I'll just pop a rug over this hole. It'll be fine.
Go to simplysafe.com/radio now to get free shipping on your order and a free keychain remote worth $25. Simplysafe.com/radio.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, the inventor of MyPillow, and like all of you out there, I had problems sleeping. Pillows would go flat, I would flip-flop all night long, I would wake up with a sore neck, maybe a headache, or feel like I needed a nap even though I slept 8 hours. When I invented MyPillow, I wanted it to where you could move the patented fill to give you the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of sleep position. MyPillow will get you into that deep sleep faster, and you will stay there longer. It's not about how much time we spend in bed, it's about how much of that quality sleep we get. I do all of my own manufacturing right here in the United States. I have a 10-year warranty. You can wash and dry my pillow, and I give you a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose.
For a limited time, now through the end of January, Mike will give you 2 standard Queen MyPillow premiums and 2 Go Anywhere pillows for just $99.98. This offer won't last long. Call or go to MyPillow.com. Be sure to click on the radio listener special and use promo code iHeart. That's MyPillow.com. Click on radio listener special, promo code iHeart.
The phone lines are open at 214-787-1190. Here's Jenna Ryan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I'm sitting here today with Lee Warren of Prospect Inspecting, and we're about to get down and talk about inspecting your home. These are things that you need to know if you're ever going to purchase real estate. Now or in the future, this show is going to be like the show you're going to want to hear, because we have got this highly qualified inspector with us today, and we've discussed that. And so what I want to talk about is whenever you're looking at the home, there's like certain major areas that you're concerned with. What are those major areas?
Every house has problems. Brand new, 80 years old, there's going to be a whole slew of things that are wrong with the property. The purpose of the inspection is not to scare anybody away from purchasing a property. It's just to make sure that you're completely aware of everything that's going on with what's in there. There are 5 main areas of concern that people are most concerned about: the foundation, the roof, the plumbing system, the electrical system, and the central heat and air. That's what everybody associates a high dollar repairs with, so it's a bulk of really what an inspector is going to be looking for.
Okay. And now you do a home inspection, and if I call you to do a home inspection, how do I get in touch with you first of all?
Usually phone is the best way. Some people want to email, but it may sometimes be a while before I can get back to my office to check the email or if it's coming through on my phone or not. So just calling is usually the best way. People can also text. That's certainly available as well. Either way is fine.
Okay, what is your phone number?
My number is 469-682-0341.
Okay, and thank you for sharing that. And then also, oh no, I forgot to turn off my phone. Okay, there we go. And also, how much do you charge for an inspection?
The cost for the inspection varies based on the house. There's square footage, how many square feet the house is. If it's a pier and beam foundation, you got to spend more time crawling underneath and playing with the snakes and spiders.
That's scary. We got to talk about that in a minute.
Okay. Distance, how far away it is. If you got to go out, a considerable amount of distance, there's all that contributes to it. But each house is different. There's no set price. So when you call or text, just let me know some specifications on the house. Ideally, city, type of foundation, and the amount of square footage. Those are the three key factors on determining what the price will be.
Okay. Great information. So generally it's between like 300 and 1,000.
That's a pretty good generalization, yeah.
Okay. He likes the 1,000 one, the best.
Hey, who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Kidding. Now, how long does it usually take for you to do an inspection on a home?
Depending on the size of the house, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, somewhere in that range. It just depends on the property itself. If the unit has gas lines, it's going to take a little more. If it's got 3 or 4 HVAC units, it's going to take a little more time, more water heaters, so on and so forth. Your smaller houses, 1,500 square feet and under, all electric, probably take a couple hours, and then it just goes up from there, depending on how much time you got to spend on it.
Okay, I get this question almost every time. Should the seller be present for the inspection?
Ideally, no.
Right.
From an inspection standpoint, we really don't want the seller there. We'd rather have the house completely, unoccupied at the time.
Right.
The reason being, the seller has a tendency to want to turn off lights and do this and do that, or run faucets and run the TV really loud and stuff like that. A lot of that can distract the inspector and kind of keep them from hearing or seeing things that they really should be seeing. Plus, a lot of sellers get nervous, very defensive. If you start taking a picture of something, like what did you take a picture of, and those types of things. So
okay, yeah, we got a caller. Yes, caller.
Yes, we have a caller. He actually has a question for the realtor. He says he has some plumbing and electrical issues, and he's wanting to know if there's any recourse. His name is Don. You want him to get him on?
Yes.
All righty, he's on.
Hello, Don.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good. My question to the home inspector, good morning, by the way, sir.
Good morning.
Is we bought a house about 3 years ago, and they said the house is in awesome shape, no issues whatsoever. That the plumbing checked, everything checked. Well, we've had, I can't tell you how many numerous plumbing issues, pretty major issues, where they had to jackhammer one of the bathrooms up and put some new pipe in, and then had to come back and put a new clean out, and had to have our main sewer line repaired.
Ooh.
All this was supposed to be perfect. They said it's perfect. They've had the cameras run when they did the inspection before we bought the house. They said it was perfect. Do we have any recourse on this, or is it just buyer beware?
Whoa, what a question, Don. That is a very...
Sorry to be a damper this morning.
No, we love your question, but you just stumped us because none of us want to say. There is a recourse. Hopefully, if the inspection came back okay, if the inspector did his job, then none of those things should happen. I mean, he's not responsible for anything that goes on later. But, he could be liable. And both he and I, as, agents and inspectors and licensed people, we have insurance. Yeah. And so that is something that you would want to, file a complaint about or whatever and see if you can get some recourse. But a lot of homes, things happen after you move in.
Yeah.
And it may have been a perfect, situation.
Yeah. Well, I really can't put it all on the inspector because they said that they had a plumber come out, and I think it would go back on the owner because the owner said, they did the camera and everything was fine, and they did say they had some issues in the past, but it's all been fixed.
Okay, so
let me let him answer.
I'm glad you clarified because usually an inspector doesn't camera the sewer lines.
Exactly.
So
that's why I wanted to clarify that. Yeah.
Fair enough. So I was starting to get real concerned when you said they cambered the sewer lines and everything came out fine. So
Right.
an inspector is really it's a visual inspection of what's there. It's non-invasive.
Yeah.
They're not going to run camera lines down there in most scenarios unless something is specifically ordered. Some inspectors will do thermal imaging in the property as well to look for certain defects.
Sure.
But basically, an inspector is going to go in. He's going to run all the drains, run all the sinks, tubs, toilets, faucets, all that good stuff, and look for visual indications that there could be a problem. Now, if there's something that inspector should have seen that is a non-latent defect, then yes, you might have some recourse there. If it's something that, for instance, I have a property that just had found out I have cast iron lines underneath it.
Ouch.
And all the drain lines just collapse, and it's going to cost a substantial penny for me to do that.
$65,000.
And that's a property that I own, and I'm going to have to bear that cost.
Yeah.
But 4 years ago when I purchased it, there was no way for me to actually see that those drain lines were actually collapsing without sticking a camera down. So unfortunately, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Unless it's something that the inspector could see visually and easily, it's probably not going to be too much help.
From what I understand, those copper pipes disintegrate. So
because that's what
eventually,
we had on the clean out. Yes.
Eventually, you just need to know that if you're going to purchase a home that's in the 70s or whatever the year is.
And that's when the house was built in 78.
Right.
So,
Any of those homes, they have copper piping. And so they're beautiful homes, great neighborhoods, great schools. But you know what? The copper piping, from what I have discovered, can cause problems, and you just have to be prepared to either fix each leak. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And eventually copper piping, it disintegrates into the dirt. And so you're going to have to replace it with that PVC pipe. Yeah. And that's probably beyond what he does. He just lets you know, hey, there's a problem.
No, exactly. And I probably said it wrong in the first.
You
I'm
said
not
it
trying
great.
to put on the inspector, but maybe the homeowner, because they knew that there was plumbing issues and probably didn't disclose everything. Everything's fine now. I mean,
Good.
we had the home warranty, and so we're good now. It's not a major, huge complaint, but it was a bit of a concern at first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we thank you for calling today.
Thank
and email Jenna Ryan, realty@gmail.com, and I'll send you a gift card to Target or Home Depot or something.
Oh, that's not necessary, but thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye. Okay. So that was, something you want to be careful for. If you do see on the inspection report, if the inspection report says to have your plumbing, a lot of times the inspection report won't go really involved in plumbing, but they'll say, okay, you have a slow drain. Okay. If you have a slow drain, you don't just go, oh, slow drain, fix it. Because, if there's several, one slow drain is not the end of the world.
It really depends. If it's one sink drain and the adjacent tub and toilet are draining just fine, it's probably just hair in the P-trap and those types of things.
Right.
Most inspectors, if they see cast iron drain lines, are going to call it out and recommend that you have a licensed plumber really evaluate those cast iron drain lines, because at this point in the age of those, they will start to deteriorate. They will, eventually need to be replaced with more sturdy materials. So.
And I found that doing a normal 22,000 square foot house costs around $65,000 to have all the pipes turned into PVC. But usually you don't have to do it all at once, but it's a real pain. Anyway, on to the next subject. Let's see. What about the buyer? Do you want the buyer with you whenever you're doing these home inspectors?
Ideally, I love for the buyer to be there at the end to do the walkthrough with the property. I typically don't necessarily want the buyer there while I'm doing the inspection for a couple of reasons, especially if the house is occupied. I don't have the time to watch the buyer going, and they may want to go through and search the house, and sometimes buyers get a little more liberal with where they should be going in a house that's occupied.
Right.
But the inspector should be given the time to walk through a house and do everything he needs to. But then absolutely, if a buyer can come at the end so that the inspector can do at least a verbal walkthrough of everything that they found, that would be ideal.
Okay, yes, because the buyer oftentimes, not always, but sometimes gets really anxious. Here they are purchasing one of the largest purchases of their, investment portfolio, and they get anxious and they meet the inspector at the property, and they're like following the inspector around, and this really could hinder the quality of your inspection because the inspector's more concerned about you and you're kind of you're distracting the inspector. So it's better to just let the inspector do the inspection and then meet the inspector at the home at a preset time. Am I right? Or
yeah, it's much easier. You're paying the inspector to find everything that's wrong with the house. Let the inspector have that time in the house to do what's there. every inspector that I know of, every colleague that I know will spend as much time as you want on the backside talking about everything that's going on with the property. And that walkthrough is extremely important.
Yes.
Because the reports, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, the reports themselves are very dry, they're very direct. And if the first thing you see of a house is the report, nobody'd ever buy a house because they are very, very fact-based.
Absolutely. Those reports a lot of times just have a lot of verbiage on there that's pretty much standard that you put on every single one in order to protect your interests so that you're not, being sued. So am I right?
Yeah, we have what's called the standards of practice, which in the state of Texas, standards of practice is what we have to abide by in every inspection on a 1 to 4 family property that is part of a sales transaction. So there's this very specific set of rules that we have to go by. And unfortunately, there is a lot of verbiage and a lot of CYA verbiage that goes in there because there are just a certain amount of things that we can't see. So going through that, yes, there is the verbiage in the reports can be a little daunting if you don't have the verbal walkthrough ahead of time to at least soften that blow.
Yeah, and that's very important. So we definitely recommend that the buyer meet the inspector at the home at the end of the inspection so that you can go over everything with him and understand and not be scared, because a lot of buyers, especially first-time home buyers, may go through that and see all that standards of practice. We've got a break. Call us at 214-787-1190, and when we get back, we'll keep talking about inspections. Thank you.
Well, there's a black man with a black cat living in a black neighborhood.
Are you thinking of buying or selling a home? If so, contact me, Jenna Ryan, with RE/MAX Dallas Suburbs. I was born and raised in Dallas, and I know every area and every suburb. If you're relocating to the area, downsizing, or upsizing, or buying your first home, I can help you find the home that's perfect for you. Contact me today at 972-510-9177 or go to my website at JennaRyanRealty.com. You can also email me at JennaRyanRealty@gmail.com. Whether you're buying or selling, I'm Jenna Ryan, your best friend in real estate. I have my own radio show, 25 years of sales experience, and a team of experts to help you with all of your real estate needs. Join me, Jenna Ryan, from 11 to 12 on Sundays, where we talk real estate on Talk Radio 1190.
2017 is here, and iHeartRadio is here to help you keep those New Year's resolutions to shape up. iHeartRadio has stations and playlists made specifically for your workouts to keep you running, spinning, and pumping iron. Free radio and music on demand all in one app. Play any song, get unlimited skips, listen offline, and so much more.
This is Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones. This is Bruce Springsteen.
A new you in 2017, and a new way to experience iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app now.
Welcome back to the Jenna Ryan Show.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Jenna Ryan Show. We're glad to have you here today. I'm here with my wonderful friend who is also an inspector, Lee Warren. We're so glad to have you with us today, Lee.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Got Brian on the line for you. He has a quick question he wants to get out there.
One of the things I asked you, I asked you that one. Let's talk about
Awesome.
foundation.
Do you hear me?
How can you tell if a home...
Hang on just a second, Brian.
What?
Brian's on the phone. He's
Brian's on the phone. Hi, Brian.
Hey,
I
how's
can't
it going?
hear.
Good. How are you?
Great. Hey, I got a very important question. When it comes to inspectors offering to doing work, like maybe before or after doing an inspection, I don't know if maybe like a home buyer or a seller wants to do an inspection prior, and then they might offer some kind of service. I'm trying to do these repairs. Is it a conflict of interest, or is it legal? What's your take on that?
That is a conflict of interest. It is illegal, and inspectors are not allowed to work on any property that they've inspected for at least 12 months after that inspection has been done. So if an inspector goes through and does an inspection on a property, they cannot do any work on that property for at least 12 months. The purpose of that is to make sure that inspectors that may not be up to snuff are coming in saying, hey, X, Y, and Z is wrong, but hey, I can repair it for this amount. The whole
Lord,
purpose of the
no.
inspection is to be a completely unbiased opinion of what's going on in the house.
That doesn't sound very ethical.
No, unfortunately, it does happen every once in a blue moon. Like I said, I sit on the enforcement subcommittee up at the Texas Real Estate Commission, so I do hear about occasionally ones of those every now and then, but fortunately, that's very few and far between.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you for calling. Okay, now I want to talk about foundation because that is a huge issue. So there's two types of foundation really that we see mostly in the Texas area here is pier and beam for the older homes from the 50s or earlier, and the slab.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the homes that we do are slab. So I want to start with pier and beam. If you have pier and beam, how do you do that? You have to crawl under a house.
Oh, yeah. I got to crawl under the house. I tell people there's two types of foundations. There's foundations that have problems and foundations that will. It's
right.
just kind of a matter of time. The soil out here is extremely expansive. It's like a sponge.
Right.
When it gets wet, it swells up. When it dries up, it shrinks down. So when you get 7 years of no rain like we had and in the last 2 years of nothing but rain, it's causing a lot of volatile movement in the house. And it's not always indicative of a foundation problem.
Right.
But it can, give people a moment of pause. But yes, pier and beams, you got to crawl underneath, play with the snakes and spiders and that type of stuff. So long as the inspector has access. I'm finding that a lot of people that do rehabs right now, they're redoing the floors on some of these pier and beams, and they're completely sealing off the access underneath the house.
That
We
happens
got
often.
another question from Kendra. She's asking, a new home is being built. At what point should it get inspected? Should it be
Okay.
during the process or after it's been built?
Great question.
The new homes.
Wait. We need to repeat the question.
Go
Hi,
for it.
Kendra.
Hi, Jenna. Love your show.
Thank you. Love your call.
Well, I had a question for Lee. I was wondering, at what point, if you're buying a home from a home builder, is it a good idea to get it inspected, or?
At what point, when you're buying a home from a new home builder, brand new home,
Ground up.
from the ground up, when do you need to get it inspected?
A lot of people have a misconception that brand new homes are perfect and there's no problems because they have city inspections and whatnot. What I tell people is if the city inspectors found everything that really needed to be found, then we wouldn't have a job. So
Right.
I kind of look at it that way.
Right.
There are a couple different ways you can go with new homes. You can have the home inspected when it's completely done, right before you do your blue tape walkthrough, which is the standard inspection that you do on every other home. You can do a warranty inspection right before the warranty goes out, before that builder's warranty at the 11th or 12th month goes out.
That's a good idea.
Can get that. The best way to do it is to do a phased inspection. There's 3 different phases: pre-pour, pre-drywall, and then a final phase. But really going out and looking while the drain lines are going in, while the forms and everything and the framing's being put in, that's the only time you're going to be able to see behind those walls and underneath that slab before you move into that house. So that's a real key point in finding things that are wrong with that house that you're making this huge investment in, is to get a phased inspection throughout the entire process.
Does that make sense, Kendra?
Oh, it does. Do you provide that service?
I do. I do a lot of phase inspections. I have a few of them going on right now in multiple different neighborhoods. One thing I would caution, though, is make sure who the builder is. There are some builders that are not, let's just say, inspector-friendly. They
Right.
have...
Who would be?
They
You're
have
looking for
certain-
problems.
Yeah, they have certain requirements that are a little more than what most inspectors will be okay with.
Right.
So in some ways, they're trying to discourage some inspectors. So check with your agent. Make sure you have an agent when you do a new home too. Don't let them, play the game of, oh, we can get you this bonus, but not having an agent in that whole process. Buying a new home is extremely important. But find out how they feel about inspections and get any documentation they need for that.
Right. Lee,
Wow.
Go ahead.
Good to know. Thank you so much, Lee. Good stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Kendra, for your call
All right.
today.
Thank you, Jenna. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yes, that is a good idea to have the home inspected. What Lee offers is he will go out to the home at the different phases, what he just said, and go out and inspect the home and make sure that it's being built properly. Now, that is not a cheap service. It costs a little bit. It's not like, but you know what? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And if you feel, you'll feel safer knowing that someone is watching the builder's butt the whole way through. And another thing is people, ask me if I recommend an inspection on a new home, and absolutely I do, because these home builders are building on so quickly, and they may miss something, and so you want to make sure, yes, it looks polished on the outside, but having an inspector come in and make sure that everything is right on the home is crucial, even on new homes. No matter what home, I highly recommend an inspection be done.
Yeah, there's a lot of times when you get this inspection done during the phase inspection process, you substantially cut down the number of warranty service calls that you have on there.
Right.
Warranty service calls only cost builders money, and they only cost you time, because the builders have to come in and work around your schedule and move your furniture and possibly tear stuff up. So the least amount of intrusion you can have on your home once you're already in it, the better.
And also, if you're purchasing a brand new home, yes, you can go directly to the builder and purchase a home. I know that, people can do this and it's really comfortable, and you get cookies and you get candy, and they give you all these bonuses. But what I do is come in and really protect your interests, because that builder's rep is protecting their interest of the builder. And so you need someone that's protecting your interest. And I've worked with people to buy multiple homes. And so I know what to look out for. I mean, there's just little things all across the board, just like Leah's saying. With the home's construction, during the whole process, you need a realtor there, and it's already built into the price. My fee is paid by the seller. I'm not going to get into that right now. Let's talk about foundation. Okay, we're talking about foundation now, and we're going to talk about slab foundation. How do I know, or any kind of foundation, how do I know from the home itself that there is some foundation issues?
There's a number of different ways you can look. Doors that stick, windows that stick, stuff of that nature, cracks on the inside of the house.
Cracks on the inside of the house. But wait a minute. Aren't there just like settlement cracks?
There's always going to be some settlement cracks that are there. A lot of it just depends on how big those cracks are, how often they show up. A lot of times you can look on the outside, especially on your brick or your stone homes, and look for the cracks out there as well. If you sit at the corner of the house and look horizontally down the side of the house, that horizontal mortar line in between the bricks is perfectly straight when the house is built. But if a house is moving around, you'll start seeing little deflections or curves in that mortar line, which will be a good indication. You can also go up in the attic and see where the rafters are pulling away from the ridge beams and other ancillary damage like that too.
Okay, awesome. And then also on a pier and beam house, what if it doesn't have brick? What if it doesn't have brick?
Siding is a little harder to see as far as the deficiencies on the outside, but there's still going to be deficiencies on the inside that you can see, as well as feeling the levelness of the floor, looking in the attic at the roof structure, because every little bit of movement that happens under the house is going to show itself 10 times more the higher you go.
Okay, what about cracks in the driveway and cracks on the back patio? Does that indicate, I know the answer to this, but I'm asking. I don't want y'all, I know the answer. Does that indicate foundation issues?
No, it's not an indication of foundation issue. In fact, your sidewalk, your driveway, your back patio, and your garage are always going to crack first. They're typically thinner than the concrete the slab that's underneath your house.
Okay.
So yeah, those will always crack first.
So you're telling me that the garage is not part of the foundation slab?
Typically it is, but it's thinner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful to know. And you want to, like if you have a big crack in your garage and then you have a room over the garage, then that could potentially cause problems for the structure of the entire home.
Right. And another problem people run into is they do an add-on over the garage, or they enclose attic space over the garage, and you're adding a whole lot of weight onto the house that foundation was not designed to hold, and that can cause some problems as well.
Okay, that is an interesting topic that I deal with on a daily basis, foundation. If you have any questions for Lee, 214-787-1190. We're also live on Facebook at jenna.ryan1. You can ask your questions here. And so let's move on to the top of the house, just jump to the top. What about the roof?
Roofs are one of those fun things. They about every 7 to 10 years, Mother Nature will probably give you a new one.
Thank you, insurance.
Yeah, absolutely. Most inspectors, every inspector is supposed to go on the roof unless they feel that it is unsafe for them to do so. Really high pitches. There are some roofing materials that you don't want to walk on because you can actually damage them. But really, there's no better way to really look at a roof without getting up on there. Most roofs are able to be walked on. You always want to, when you're interviewing an inspector, ask them if they get on the roof, because there's some that just don't. They don't feel comfortable doing it, and that's okay if they don't feel safe. But for your best interest in purchasing a home, you want somebody that's going to get up on the roof.
Right. I used to own a roofing company, and I remember one of the main I did the marketing for our company, and one of the main things I remember is that you really have to get up there to see. And a lot of the problems with roofs in our area is hail damage. If there's a hailstorm coming through, you want to make sure that you contact the insurance company, because your roof can be totaled and they'll purchase a new roof for you. Even if it's a 30-year roof, it'll still get hail damage, and it's the little granules, and you can see the little specks of hail. You cannot see this from the ground. Your roof may look like $1 million from the street, and then you get an inspection report that says potential hail damage. Other factors with the roof include like the flashing and
flashing, the rain caps on top of the flue pipes, the chimney. I see a lot of deficiencies in brick chimneys that don't have crickets on the back, so they pool up water back there, a number of those different items. Absolutely.
Okay, very interesting. And then also another thing that I get almost on every inspection report in an older home is rotted wood.
Yeah, FHA, VA, they all love to call out the rotted trim and whatnot. It's a simple fix, really not a huge issue in most scenarios. It's either a sanding and repainting or just quick replacement of the trim itself. But that does come up a lot. We have to call it out. And then when your FHA or VA appraisal comes through, they love to call that out and make that a condition of repair prior to purchase.
And we usually end up fixing it. It's not as big of a deal as it sounds. It sounds horrible. Rotted wood. Oh, my gosh. Okay, we've got a break, y'all, and want you to call in. But after this break, we're going to talk more about home inspections with Lee Warren.
Hi, I'm David Bellman, inventor of the Aquasonic Wave jewelry cleaner and jewelry hygiene pioneer. What is jewelry hygiene? I've discovered that because we don't clean and sanitize the jewelry we wear, dirt and bacteria builds up to levels 5 times greater than a public toilet. A biofilm of microorganisms grow under your gemstones and small openings in rings, bracelets, and necklaces. This bile not only dulls the beauty of your jewelry, but it also contributes to 80 million Americans contracting food poisoning every year. Moms, think about it. 1 minute you're changing diapers, and the next, making your child's lunch. And you wonder why your child gets sick so often. We all know our jewelry's dirty. Filthy dirty. Now is the time to take action and do something about it. Go to aquasonicwave.com and watch my demonstration videos. Clean your jewelry and kill bacteria, all in one easy step.
The Aquasonic Wave is the world's best jewelry cleaner. Order yours now at aquasonicwave.com and click on the iHeart tab to receive free shipping plus an extra 6-week supply of antibacterial hydrogel. That's aquasonicwave.com.
Are you considering a mortgage loan? If so, contact my favorite lender, Brad Walters, with American Southwest Lending. He's always available and always on time. He's the only guy I would consider for all of my clients' loans. He's direct and to the point and doesn't give you the runaround. Call Brad Walters with American Southwest Lending at 214-924-1066. He will get the best rate and the best loan for you.
Every day, millions of Americans are putting themselves at risk just by writing a check, using a credit card, or an ATM. We're talking identity theft. And if you've been a victim or think your personal information has been compromised, you need to act immediately. The identity theft recovery process can be long and daunting, but you don't have to do it alone. Contact a certified counselor at the National Foundation for Credit Counseling at 1-800-388-2227, who can guide you every step of the way. This has been a public service message from the NFCC.
Little pretty houses for you.
Welcome back to the Jenna Ryan Show on Talk Radio 1190 AM.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Thank you for joining us this beautiful Sunday and every Sunday. This is a great show, and today we have Lee Warren, home inspector. Next week we have John Tassar, the Dallas celebrity chef, and from what I understand in D Magazine, he's the most hated chef in Dallas. So we're going to have him on next week. I can't wait. I'm going to go check out his restaurant, The Knife, this week and really just see what's going on. He's actually opening a restaurant at Legacy West. But that's next week. Right now, we're here, and we're going to talk about home inspections with Lee Warren, the Lee Warren. Okay, the next thing that's really huge that I get a ton of is the broken seals on the windows.
That is a common thing that comes up, the fog up that you see in some of the windows. What happens is you have a pane of glass on the inside, pane of glass on the outside, and the air is vacuumed out for energy efficiency, or they'll put argon gas in there in some of your higher end windows. As the house starts moving around, a lot of times the window frame is installed too close to the wood frame of the house, and as the house starts moving around, it'll twist that glass and pop the seal. Thereby, you start getting, fogging up and a little bit of moisture in there. There's really two issues with bad thermal seals in windows. One, you lose a little bit of energy efficiency because that seal is no longer there between the two panes of glass. And two, it bugs the daylights at you because you can't clean the inside of the window.
It's fuzzy.
Mm-hmm. And other than that, that's really about it. If your concern is the energy side, I'd more recommend putting a solar screen or put a radiant tin on the outside of the window. You'll get the energy efficiency back at a fraction of the cost of replacing the glass. Until the time that the window really starts fogging up permanently, turns like a white or an opaque, then you probably want to consider replacing it. But other than that, I probably wouldn't bother with it too much.
Ooh, I like that answer.
So
I like that answer a lot because a lot of times we'll get in it. I do a lot of listings. I work with a lot of buyers, but I also do a lot of listings, and we'll get this inspection report, and they're asking for 26 windows to be replaced, especially on a home like in the 80s or in the 90s. There's like 26 windows, and that can cost a fortune.
It can. It can be very expensive. And the other catch-22 there is, as an inspector, you go through at 8 o'clock in the morning and you may visually see that window is bad. But at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that window may look perfectly fine. So
right.
It's very hard to tell sometimes without an actual window company to come in and physically check those windows which ones are actually bad.
Right. And you guys put little dots.
Not if they're smart. They should not put the dots.
What do you mean?
Should not mark the windows in any way, shape, or form. That is not the inspector's house. He should not be marking that window with any type of marking whatsoever.
Okay. Now, do you understand? See how Lee is? I get a lot of complaints from the sellers, and they're like, oh, they broke my bird bath. These are not my inspectors, but if they're like, they broke my bird bath and they left dirt on the carpet, but you're very careful about how you leave the home.
No, you have to leave the home exactly the way you find it. You don't put marks on it. Don't mark the windows and those types of things. The other part from marking a window is you're putting yourself in a liable position as an inspector.
Right.
If you mark 3 out of the 4 windows, but that 4th one is bad too, but you didn't visibly see it because the humidity level wasn't to the point that you could see it, now you could be held liable for that 4th window.
And it's important. Some of you may think, oh, windows, what schmindos, who cares? But the problem is that if you go to sell that house in 3 years, 5 years, and you did not get reparation or concession for those windows, the next buyer is going to want it as well, even if you don't need to replace them all. If there's broken seals because it's not necessarily fogged up, you want to make sure that, that you're comfortable with the price of the home and everything, and that you get the repairs that you need. And so what happens is during this option period, the inspector goes out, he finds all these things, he's paid to find things. So he's going to find things. So be prepared for that. And then what we do is we go back to the seller, the buyer goes back to the seller, and the buyer and seller negotiate these repairs. Certain repairs are absolutely, they must be done. Nobody's going to buy the home unless, the air conditioner works. Generally speaking, nobody's going to buy the home unless it's deeply discounted if it has foundation issues. So there are certain repairs that must be done that you must compensate for, and if you want to sell your home. And so what happens is usually you get this big long list from the buyer, and the buyer's like, oh my gosh, this is going to cost $10 million. And then the seller's like, what? And the seller, we're like, that'll cost $5. So, the seller's like, okay, that doesn't cost that much. And the buyer's like, yeah, that's going to cost millions of dollars. And it's this little argument that goes on every single house. And not an argument, but it's just like everybody wants to make sure that their interests are taken care of. And so what we look for are win-win situations where everybody has to give a little, everybody has to be realistic. And if you want the home, especially in this tight market where we could turn around and sell the home in 2 seconds, it just depends on the market. But you negotiate the repairs, and then we have something called the repair amendment that we have to get done within that 7 days. And you get the repair amendment, and usually you want the repairs. You just want to be paid for the repairs. You don't want to actually have them done, because at the end of the day, you don't want the seller, doing repairs on your home if you're the buyer, and the seller doesn't want to mess with it. Okay, back to Lee. Okay, Another problem is the drainage outside the home. How can you tell if there's issues with drainage if there's no water?
Drainage is your biggest culprit in foundation movement. Water tends to be your biggest contributor to your foundation moving around. So effective drainage is really a huge importance to the health of your foundation.
Okay.
Ideally, you want the water to be able to effectively drain away from the property. And the standard that we use, the minimum standard is for every 10 feet horizontally out, the slope of the ground should go down at least 6 inches at the bare minimum. Now, if you start getting to the point where some of these new houses are pushed so close together that there's this 45-degree angle slope in the soil away from it, that can actually cause a reverse problem. That can actually erode the soil away from the house and cause a bigger problem. So if you have a new house and within the first couple of years you realize the grass over on that side of the house is completely dying or there's separation there, that's an indication that that slope is too hard and there really should have been a small retaining wall or something else put in there. But sometimes if you have older houses that have settled over time, now all of a sudden the slope slopes back towards the house. You can fix that with some French drains, those types of remedies to be able to get the water effectively away from the house. But you always want the water to effectively get away from the house in a reasonable amount of time.
Yes, I dealt with this week. One of my houses needed a French drain and a sump pump and all kinds of things, and it had some rotted wood. And they were saying that the rotted wood could be an indicator, but it also rained and there was a bunch of water puddled around. And so that could also mean that there might be a drainage issue from what I understand.
Absolutely. And a lot of times you can see on the inside of the house, if the soil is up over the brick line and the drainage is bad, sometimes that water will actually make its way back in the house. It'll start staining the baseboards on the bottom. You can see that as well.
Okay, that's very interesting. Well, what about structural issues? What kind of issues do you ever see structural issues? Of course.
Well, absolutely. Structural issues certainly come about. Usually the biggest culprit is the foundation and the movement therein. A lot of times another issue that you run into on the structural side is when people go through and they start doing rehabs of house. They start wanting to move walls and take walls out and those types of things. And if they don't have a structural engineer to know what's load bearing and what's not, all of a sudden they try to, play around with it and it can get pretty interesting. And it's not always easy to see. I've had some houses where they've done all this rehab, they've moved a wall, but you can't see what they did with the joisting because they blew in 20 inches of insulation over the top of it in the attic.
I've heard that we heard that from the electrician as well.
Yeah, it becomes very difficult to see up there. So if you have a house that you're looking to purchase that's been rehabbed, make sure you get all the receipts and everything and a lot of the description of work that was done, as well as to find out if they moved any walls and got permits and those types of things.
Because a lot of people right now are really into the open concept, open floor plan. They want the brand new homes are all built with the kitchen that's open to the living room, to the dining room. I mean, they don't want any walls in their homes right now. They love open, open, open. But when you do open a home, you need to make sure that you're not, causing problems with the load-bearing walls, and you want to make sure that you have a structural engineer out there to make sure everything's really solid and stable.
Yeah, you can open up even older houses as long as you support everything properly. You can open up just about any house. It just has to be supported properly.
That makes perfect sense, yes, because we're out of housing in Dallas, and so we're having to go into our older neighborhoods and take these homes. So you can look at the outside of the home, drive by a house in Dallas or whatever, Plano, and it looks like an older home. Go inside, and it looks completely brand new. You guys, our phone lines are open, 214-787-1190. I'm here with Lee Warren, the inspector, who knows all about inspecting properties, and we're talking about the home inspection process. What about the attic? Whenever we go into the attic, what do we need to be looking for?
There's a number of things you can see in the attic that you wouldn't be able to see otherwise. Looking up at the inside of the roof decking, you can see if there's been some previous moisture penetration, some previous water leaks, stuff of that nature. On some of your older homes, you'll actually still see the original wood shingles that are there that somebody has put composite shingles over the top.
Overlay.
Yep. So they do an overlay. You can see if there's any structural issues, the rafters pulling away or splitting from the ridge beams. You can see the insulation levels. A lot of your older homes, the insulation is very, very low. Insulation's cheap. You'll always get your money back out of putting insulation in a home.
Right.
But most of the houses around have about 4 to 6 inches of insulation. You really want at least 12, if not more.
We've only got just a few minutes left of the show. It's almost over. We've been talking, and it's been a great show, Lee. You're awesome. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's talk about the HVAC real quick because I want the information on HVAC.
Essentially, an error is one of your biggest components that people are most concerned about. And the AC side, the hard part about doing inspections in the winter is there's a departure provision in the state standards that tells us if the temperature is below 60 outside, that we really shouldn't be running the AC system. This can cause a problem later on if after you purchase home, get in, all of a sudden the AC doesn't work. So a lot of times there'll be enough items in that HVAC system that will recommend a service. And I can't stress enough, get that unit looked at, especially during the winter, and have that licensed person test that AC to make sure that functions.
So if it's wintertime, don't just, say, okay, the AC works. Make sure you get an HVAC person out. I would always do that. And what about the electrical? We've got like 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes.
Electrical, the biggest thing that people run into with electrical is your older homes, your Federal Pacific Stablock panels, Zinsco panels, those types of things. There are some people that will immediately say replace those panels. The fact is there are known deficiencies in those particular types of panels, but just because those panels are there does not mean the panel has to be replaced.
Exactly. Thank you.
I would have it evaluated by an electrician to determine if any of those deficiencies existed, but just because it's a Federal Pacific does not mean it has to be replaced.
Right, and it's like people are like wanting the box fixed. It's like $5,000 to get that box replaced, and then all the wiring and things like that. But, if the home hasn't caught on fire in 30 years, now that's not always a good way to look at it. It's up to you. I'm just saying, okay? But if you can, you want to ask for it, but you end up having to kind of weigh the good with the bad of what you're going to ask for in that repair amendment during that option period. Otherwise, the deal may fall through and you may not get the house at all. So that's our show today. And we're so glad to have you, and come back next week to see John Tassar, Dallas celebrity chef, and have a wonderful week.
You've been listening to The Jenna Ryan Show on Talk Radio 1190 AM. For more information, contact Jenna through Facebook or email at jennaryanrealty@gmail.com. Join us again next time on Talk Radio 1190 AM for The Jenna Ryan Show.